When you plant Wyffels Hybrids, you're making a statement that independence and family-owned means something on your farm. So make your choice. Plant your independence. Plant Wyffels.
Welcome back, guys, to another episode of InCYde Zone presented by Wyffels Hybrids. I'm Jacqueline Cordova, joined as always by Colin Newell, Jake Remsburg, and Jirehl Brock. Cyclones got the win this weekend, 34-17 over Cincinnati. How are we feeling, boys?
Let's go.
Back in the win column.
That's all you can ask for. I think we let that we let that first loss beat us twice, and I think it was just good to get out there and get a win no matter how we got it. So glad we got a win and back in the W column, like Colin said.
Yeah, getting back on track after, 2 tough weeks really is really important. And I think they, it's big for the team heading down to the home stretch here, last 2 games.
I think that Kansas loss looks a little bit different after last night. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it hurts when you go down and, feel like you have a potential. And we obviously dealt with some injuries. We got some players back, and we looked like a completely different team. So, that one certainly hurts still, but kind of Jirehl said that 1 fell into 2, and hey, we got back in the win column and got back to being aggressive last night.
That was one for sure thing, aggression, like all around. Like that was fun to watch.
Oh yeah,
especially the second half.
Yeah, the second half was awesome.
Well, more just the second half for at least one side of the ball. The other taking care of things in the first half, but
let's just focus on the last 30 minutes. first half didn't even happen in my book.
Well, when you follow it up with a second half like that, you can kind of erase it a little bit. So,
and props to them too. I mean, coming off a really not good half and bouncing back with a solid way to end the game, which is huge.
Yeah, and that. Go ahead.
It'll be good for them to be able to carry that into games coming up too. Obviously, we got a stretch here with Kansas State and Utah that are going to be some tough games and provide some different looks. But being able to start playing a good half of football and let that be the motivation that goes into the next game is certainly something that we can carry over.
Yep.
So with this win, Iowa State has won 8 games for the 4th time under Campbell and the 12th time in school history. So big win for him there and for Campbell, of course. And then something I wanted to bring up early was the night game thing. I know we were talking about it in our group chat before, but there was a lot of discourse on Twitter about just another night game for Iowa State. But when I was looking at everything from post-game, it says that the Cyclones are 5-0 in night games this season. I'm pretty superstitious, so I'll take night games the rest of the season if it means they keep a clean record on that. But would love to know what you guys think about all these night games. How would you feel if you were the players playing only night games this season, essentially? Besides the 2:30 kick and 2:30 kicks maybe?
I think if I was still playing, night games are fun when they're like the one-offs. But when it happens every single week, it's like, all right, can we get an 11 o'clock game for once? Like next week we go and have another night game in Utah, which this is what happens when you go to night games and you're in, West. I think Utah is the Western Coast time zone, if I'm correct. Maybe I'm wrong. Mountain time. So it'll be 4:30 out there. Right? Or 5:30. 5:30. Sorry. But yeah, still, when you play night games like that on the road, they're not fun. You get back into Ames at like 7 a.m. It takes forever. Like I remember last year when we played BYU, got off the plane, went back to Ames, and I was in the McDonald's drive-thru for breakfast. And I haven't even slept yet. Like it's the craziest experience ever. But I'm sure, night games are fun, but I'm sure that I would be sitting there like, all right, I'd love an 11 o'clock game for once. I always loved, 11 o'clock games. You get to go home and watch some games to end your night. And, you don't really get that when you're the night game. You're kind of all business all day. So,
yeah, I feel like multiple night games can kind of make you like emotion fatigued. like all night games seem like really big games. The crowd's really into it. We have themes like blackouts and whiteouts and stuff during night games. So there's a lot of emotions that go into it. And just having too much of that can kind of just be like, okay, another one, especially when you're going on the road to an opponent's like stadium during a night game. Like you like night games at home because of the atmosphere that it gives and the advantage that it gives you. Now, when you're going on the road, it's the same thing, but for the other team. So it can get really like emotionally fatigued. You can get really emotionally fatigued with so many of them. But I mean, when you're at home, you can't really complain, especially when you can get the crowd rocking like it was.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Jirehl. Obviously, like, you love a night game at home. A night game on the road is still cool because it just feels like it's a little bit more. Like, it seems a little bit bigger, especially when you're going into a good environment where there's tailgating, people going on all day. Everything builds up, fireworks, cool uniforms, whatever it may be. That stuff all just provides a little bit of extra energy. Not to say that there's not always energy, but I think even Iowa State fans would say, hey, when you get to have a night game at home, yeah, I know we're all kind of complaining because we get home at midnight, 1 a.m., whatever it may be, and it kind of, feels like it's an all-day thing when you get out there to tailgate at 7, 8, 9 a.m., but it certainly does provide a little bit extra juice there. So I'm with you, though. When the Cyclones win, hey, if we're 5-0 at night games, let's play them all at night.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So as far as fans, Colin, you were at the game. Jirehl, I don't think you were you?
No.
Okay.
But I heard it from the house. I'm just
Well, it didn't sell out, but I feel like Chris said this before when I was at his tailgate. It's like you prepare for the sickos of the fan base, and I felt like that's exactly who was there. I think it turned maybe 52,000, I might be wrong, was the number for the fan total, but the atmosphere was pretty good. I know some people were kind of criticizing some of the like upper deck was kind of empty in the corners, but overall it was pretty electric still for a cold night in November.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with that. Tailgating was kind of unique, A lot of people didn't get in there until maybe 3, 4 o'clock. A lot of fans were pulling into their donut lot parking lots right as they were walking to the stadium. So that was a little bit different. Obviously, we dealt with a lot of wind yesterday during that tailgate time. But I think it's just kind of like, hey, we've had a lot of night games where we've tailgated all day, and that carries over into the rest of your week. So
yeah, it does.
I can certainly understand kind of a little bit why that's happening, but hey, I think Iowa State did a pretty good job of filling up Jack Trice. Obviously, off of 2 losses, you're going to lose a little bit of that momentum. But we get an opportunity to still win 10 games in the regular season this year. So hopefully that last game, senior night, can be one that hey, maybe we fill Jack Trice up again.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah, at least for the seniors too. Do that for the seniors, man. I always was a big person, especially sending the seniors off with a big one and filling that stadium for those guys. So I think that definitely be a big one right there.
Yeah, I think
a lot.
Yeah, I think senior night's super special in college, especially for the the senior players. I don't know why. I just felt a little more because a lot of people won't play again. Same with high school. I mean, high school senior night's really cool too. But in college, I felt like, senior nights are such a cool night. You get to honor a group of, men that have put so much into a program, hours and hours and hours, which is cool. So yeah, hopefully we got a good crowd for that one. But I do have to mention here, guys, today, if we're talking, I just mentioned high school, the Valley Tigers. Come on now. Beat the Down Catholic Maroons in the Dome. State championship next Friday.
You feeling good about it?
Oh yeah. Are you going to
the game?
Oh, absolutely. I'll be there. People always tell me, close the yearbook, Jay, close the yearbook. And I can't. I'm a Tiger through and through.
Well,
so go Tigers. I just had to, make that known here.
My high school just lost in the quarterfinal.
Oh, the Quincy. What's your guys' mascot again? The Quincy
Blue Devils.
Blue Devils, that's right. Sweet basketball games, by the way. you're listening and you
yeah.
want to check out a good basketball environment in high school,
Best
head on
one
over.
ever. Best one ever.
Head on over to Quincy. You'll have a time.
QHS, Blue Devil Basketball Gym. Come
Ames
over
High
for
School though at
Thanksgiving.
Newell. I don't know about that, man.
Football or basketball? Because
Either or, man.
oh my, that's just because you guys get tired of us beating you in basketball. That's probably why.
When you guys had Harrison Barnes 50 years ago,
Dude was dunking. Dude's doing windmills out there.
or Fred Hoiberg way back in the day. I think he played it.
No,
All right,
no, you don't have to go that far.
come on, man.
You don't have to go
Come
that
on.
far. You ever heard of a guy named Taman Lipsey?
That dude's a stud.
Yeah, that dude tore up the courts at InCYde.
Yeah, they actually had a good team. They were in. I forgot about that.
Back on track.
Sorry.
I appreciate it. I was sitting there quiet.
you,
So I
Jirehl.
had to bring that up.
So, anyways, how important was this win after a 2-game losing streak, guys? Let's start there. Talk about that.
Well, it's huge. It's a confidence booster. I mean, especially like in the facility and stuff. You go around to the locker room, you can kind of feel it sometimes when you've dropped a couple games in a row. So to get a win on track, it changes the whole next week. It's so important. Like I'm sure today on Sunday watching film, it's way better than the past 2 weeks it's been. So to feel that feeling and get a little bit of confidence, it can play a huge part. I even think about like Sunday lifts. Like how much are you going to get out of a Sunday lift? After a loss, probably not a whole lot. And I mean, they're important at this time of year. As much as I didn't think so as a player. It is important to get your body moving and get some of this soreness out because these are the dog days of the season. Your body hurts. You don't want to go out to practice. Everyone's in the training room, and especially with this team this year. I mean, everyone's probably been in the training room all year this year, but you're all in the training room. You're hitting the cold tub every day. Like these are the dog days, and to get a win at this point in the year, you can at least bring a little bit of juice in the facility.
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think that part of the reason it's so big is we finally got some guys back and played with a little more fire under our belt than maybe we've had, I feel like, those last 2 weeks when we slid a little bit. So, getting some guys back like Dom Orange, Will McLaughlin, having all those guys kind of starting to play out. We had some young guys on offense that played for the first time this season or real significant snaps as well. Which just goes to show how much Campbell is willing to say, hey, if you go out there and earn it during practice, you'll be in the game and you will make an impact. So I think that keeps those guys engaged, showing, hey, like this guy's, it was week 10 before he first got his first opportunity. If I go out there and bust my butt at practice, I can still get an opportunity. So you're keeping all these guys engaged in the season, which I feel like brought a little juice. And then obviously, I mean, we all saw what the little smack talk Jalen got into yesterday. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it doesn't surprise. Like, he's not an overly vocal guy, at least from when I was there. I have to imagine that has changed. He's probably some more vocal, but like he's a tone setter. And like he definitely came out there and made sure like dudes knew like, hey, we're setting the tone this week. It doesn't matter what's going on. Like we need to pick it up and make sure we're playing juiced. And I feel like that certainly was a product of leadership.
Yeah, no, it's a huge one. And like Jake was saying, like you could feel the difference in the building when you drop 2 in a row. So if it would have got to that third one in a row, it kind of, I think the vibe definitely would have changed a tremendously. You probably would have saw some changes in the next game that you wouldn't think that you would see. But now that we have got a win doing what we've been doing, I think it's just perfecting what we've been doing. I don't think that like Iowa State has been playing bad, like terrible the last 2 games. I think like obviously little things they've been kind of messing up on, shooting themselves in the foot sometimes. But, everything that they did in this game to get a win, they've been doing the past couple of weeks. It just was a culmination of everything working out to the way that they've expected it to kind of go.
One point I want to bring up here is, I think sometimes people can overlook the development of teams throughout the year. And we saw that last night with Kansas and, BYU. Like Kansas is a team, when we talked about it last week, like they're a good team at the end of the day. And to go get that win was huge. But, when you think about a team, like you kind of look at, like as a fan, you look at records. Oh, they lost to blah blah blah, Houston or whatever. But like at the end of the day, every team is developing in some way, shape, or another. So the ability to adapt and kind of grow even when things aren't going well. You look at the first half yesterday, not great, right? Not great, but just continue developing a new game plan, more aggressive the second half. When you see things like that, I mean, that's really cool to see. It takes a lot of grit, and from the players, it takes a lot of honestly respect to the coaches for continue to develop this team even when things aren't going well. So
I think that loss is going to feel worse for Cincinnati when they go back and watch the film than maybe even what the scoreboard showed. Iowa State's defense really made Cincinnati one-dimensional in the fact that they have 60-some passing yards, I think.
Yeah, 66.
That's what I've been waiting for, man. I swear. Because whenever we let up big plays, that's when it's kind of like, okay, you can run it and throw it on us. But the fact that they held them to 66 yards was huge, I think.
And I just think the fact that like I said, Cincinnati, they're going to watch that film and feel a lot worse probably than what even the score felt like, right? They maybe were in the game closer in the second half than what they probably should have been. And, I mean, you look at, like, what we've talked about. Iowa State wins by being the least penalized team. Yesterday we were again. And then, hey, how were we on first and second down efficiency? We were better than they were. And then third down, Iowa State 7 of 16, Cincinnati's 3 of 11. Advantage Iowa State. Iowa State's more aggressive on special teams, win special teams. Iowa State played better team football and deserved that win.
No, it's a great point. At the end of the day, yesterday was a team football win. And Campbell hit on it in the locker room. Like, every area of special teams, offense, defense, they all made big plays that contributed to a win. And when you can play a team football, and I know Cincinnati's like a team football, that's how they win over at Cincinnati, is playing team football. So when you play team football team versus team football team, if that makes sense, it's a good win.
So when you guys look at the offense, obviously the second half was better. So I don't care if we focus solely on those really good, 30 minutes you guys said it was. What stood out to you guys the most? Like, what do you think made the difference, especially when you look at the fact that Jalen and Higgins were covered most of the time? Like, it was almost impossible to get to them.
I think it was huge. I think one thing that we don't really realize, or maybe obviously we've all pointed to, but Coach Veit, the defensive coordinator for Cincinnati, was with Iowa State and developed that defense and has now largely implemented that. So he knows areas. Obviously, Iowa State's offense have changed. We're under new direction, things like that. But there's a lot of things that we're doing that are similar probably to when Coach Veit was here. So he knew, personnel, things like that. Hey, who can I go after and stuff like that. But going out there and beating him was certainly a fun thing to do. But I looked at some of the guys that seemed like they stepped up. I kind of mentioned earlier, we had some guys. Carson Brown is playing so much more football, which is so cool to see. Brett Eskilson, I think is how you say it. He came in and played some great football. And it's one of those situations where it's like, hey, go practice hard. Let's get you out in the field and see what you do. And he went out and I thought played good football. I thought that was probably Gabe Burkle's best game as an Iowa State Cyclone.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure it was. And big time, too, in replacement for Ben Bramer, who's been out. And that was huge. I think he had a lot of really good plays. Got to see the tight ends be used a lot more, with Steve-O even getting in the end zone, too. So I thought that was huge for Iowa State, the tight end play, and just guys that, that you've probably never heard of, just going out there and, even if it's 5 plays, give me the best 5 plays that you have. So I think there's obviously been a lot of that just with injuries and stuff this year. New guys just making a name for themselves and getting themselves on the field during practice, and then taking advantage of their opportunity.
And you could tell we were a lot more methodical with our efficiency on third down, for one, but we were also aggressive. I mean, Jalen Noel threw a pass yesterday, right? So, we got back to where we were able to control some of that tempo and be the aggressors rather than, hey, they're throwing all these blitzes at us, they're getting us off track. Iowa State was able to set the tempo.
Yeah, that's one thing I want to talk about. Was really the play calling from Mouse. Man, I thought that was just well done to get those tight ends involved, and however you can. I thought that was a beautiful game plan to get those guys involved. Burkle, like you talked about, great game. Probably his best game, like you said, Noel. But But yeah, I thought it was just a well called game. I think we had one play where we might have had 3 pulling offensive linemen. It was that who was that touchdown to? Maybe it wasn't a touchdown, but yeah, I saw it on Twitter. We literally had 3 pulling linemen on like a pass. I think it was the Lamar Jackson. Someone said on Twitter. The Lamar Jackson play.
Are you talking about to Steve-O? The touchdown to Steve-O? Are you talking about that?
Yeah, I think so.
Did they pull 3 linemen on that?
Yeah, they pulled 3 linemen. I'm like,
I didn't know.
no, it's an awesome play. I know this being in the program last year. Those guys are just football gurus. Mouse, Clanton, all those guys. Paulie on offense. If they see something, a play design or something, someone brings it to their attention, they're going to try it. They're not scared to mix it up and call a kind of a different game. And I think that was really beneficial to us in the second half. Getting Rocco using his legs. What a benefit that was yesterday. Wow. And then even bringing in Moberly, the backup quarterback, and getting him some reps out there, which was really cool to see as well.
So wasn't it during that fake punt with Steve-O when Campbell was smirking on TV? Wasn't the this is fantastic. We got to bring it up.
We got to bring it up. This meme right here. I had so much fun on Twitter this one, or X, you should call it, looking at some of these memes that are created from this. So I have a couple I want to go through with you guys. This smirk. My first one. Okay, you ready? When you're at a restaurant, you go to the bathroom and you're walking back to the table and you see the food on the table. All right, that's number one. What are the thoughts on that one? Like, that's a good.
I wasn't the biggest fan of that one. I know what you mean. I know I wasn't the biggest fan of that one.
You're like,
go ahead, keep going, keep going.
Number two, here's a good one. Here's my favorite. Okay, walking back to your desk at work when you just got paid to sit on the pot for 20 minutes.
See, I like that one. But
right,
I like that one.
Newell, thoughts? You like that one?
Yeah, it's good, Remy.
All right.
Last
Last one. I'm coming up with this one on the top of my head. I only had 2 down, but I think I should give a third.
Okay.
All right. This one, when you're in high school, okay, think about this, and you're walking down the hallways after you just got the girl's number in class, and all the boys are coming up to you in the hallway. How do you like that one?
Personal experience.
Oh yeah, Jake used to give that face all the
time. Great video though, but let's talk about the punt fake. I mean, come on, like
22-yard fake punt by Steve-O Klotz.
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing. Great call. I mean, you don't see that.
I definitely was
Campbell. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, you really don't, especially like, and us being in the program know like that's definitely something that put in after at the bye week. That's probably something that you put in at the bye week because you're not going to put it in at the beginning of the year because you're not going to run at the beginning of the year. But later on in the year, teams start to not even think that you're going to fake it. Then you pull it out. I remember we had one against Oklahoma with Mevis when he ran for a first down. It was at Oklahoma for like, I don't know. He ran for like 40 yards. I think he had the longest run by any runner that day. Even like Brees, he outran Brees.
I think credit to Steve-O and credit to everyone that executed that play, but that's really like a tip of your cap to the coaches, right? Like those guys on special teams watch so much film and they clearly saw something that they liked. And not only did they like it, but they executed it perfectly. So those type of situations are obviously, Cincinnati was a well-coached team and we were able to go out there and kind of expose the weakness that they had.
This is like, coaching masterclass 101, not just for the play call, what it brings to their team. So I guarantee you, Campbell, in the Tuesday meeting, you just lost 2 in a row. The vibes aren't great. And he's going, every Tuesday he has these meetings, before we start practice for the week to go over the opposing team. And it's to the point of like, on the slideshow, it says the stadium name, the weather, what the weather is supposed to be, the time. and you kind of go through the roster. Hey, these are their best players, kind of that.
Yeah.
But he'll hit on points. Like I guarantee on Tuesday, he was like, and we're going to fake a punt. And as a player, like you're like, heck yeah, like let's go. And I guarantee you that was a point all week. Like we're gonna bring it out, and then you're in practice and you're watching it happen. And you're like, okay, let's go. We're gonna fake a punt, and that can bring a lot of juice to your team. Just the slightest, trick play or Jalen Knowles pass. You're practicing that in practice, and sometimes, dude, I know we had Jalen's thrown a couple times for us, and I think there was one time we went a whole week and he didn't complete a single pass on this trick play, and we ran it every day at practice. And then on Saturday he gets it executed. It didn't really work yesterday, but no, those are the type of things that can bring a team up after losing 2 games in a row.
Well, how important is it going to be to maybe continue to see those type of aggressive and like different play calls that can throw off the opponent? And really watching Campbell smirk on the TV, like watching the clip back, it's just fun to see him having fun with it.
Absolutely.
Like it's so great to see him instead of, his usual very serious, very just like, I don't even know how to describe it, but you guys know what I mean. Like how
Right.
important is that type of aggressive playing going to be here in the next 2 weekends?
I think it's huge. I mean, I feel like anytime that we go down and score something, like we've had a big play that drive, and I kind of notice it on the other side of the ball too, where anytime a team goes down and scores, it's because they had a big play that drive. So it's like that seems to be a correlating factor. So try and make it happen more. I mean, I feel like whenever we can after games, we used to have a meeting and talk about percentages and stuff on our goals and big plays. Big plays was one of those. And it was like 2 or 3 big plays a game or something like that. And that can really change the trajectory of a game. Because when you're going down to score, like having to run multiple, 10, 12 play drives, it's hard to score getting down the field like that. Like when you can have a chunk play for 30, 40 yards, something like that, that makes it so much easier for your offense to just go punching in. So, down the line, I think being aggressive, going for it on 4th and 2, maybe, I mean, we usually down in going for it range, we go for it on 4th and 1 most of the time, but even 4th and 2, that's kind of scary to some people. Down the stretch, it might be a good for us to, get a little aggressive and trust our offense out there and go get some points still.
I think it's just momentum. So much momentum goes into football games, not only with especially when you're at home. If you can hit a 40-yard shot play to Jalen Knowell across the middle, Iowa State fans get into the game, right? The 5, 6, 7-yard play doesn't always bring the exact same juice that a 40-yard play can do. So being able to know not only with the stadium, but you can quiet a stadium if you're on the road. So being able to hit those shot plays and be able to be explosive, I think is a huge part of what's been successful for Iowa State this year. And I think that's kind of something that we're going to see. But it all starts off with, hey, first, second down efficiency. Are we staying on the field offensively and being able to put ourselves in a situation where, hey, we're operating well, we can take these shots, so then we don't have to feel like we're behind the sticks.
Yeah, I think, it's very important, aggression in the last 2 games here. My philosophy kind of on football a little bit is, I love, running the football, running InCYde Zone, right? That's what we're called, right? That's what the podcast is called. Love running, running the ball, kind of slant routes. I love being a good football
Conservative.
But my gosh, do I love taking shots down the field, left and right. I'll be watching the game, let's take a shot right here. Let's go for it. It's second and 4. Let's throw a shot. And my kind of theory is to win championships in college football, you have to be willing to take some risk. Go for the 4th and 2. You're looking at it with the Lions right now. Dan Campbell in the NFL, he pretty much goes for it if he's crossed the 50 every time on 4th and short. So I think some people it's important to take risk and be aggression in your play calling, be aggressive. And I think that's a huge going to be a huge aspect here in the last 2 weeks, because 2 games that really aren't easy. They could go either way. Now, I know Utah is obviously not who we thought they were. I think they've lost 6 or 7 games in a row right now. But on the road at night, you just never know what happens. And obviously, Kansas State kind of also, we didn't really think what they would be. They just lost to Arizona State. But, I mean, 2 important games where, it's going to come down to, who wins the fine details and maybe who goes forward on 4th and short.
When it comes to the offense, I'll ask you guys this question before we kind of switch gears. What else were your biggest takeaways from the offense? Like we said in the beginning, I mean, Abu Sama scored, Hansen scored, Rocco Back scored. Like, what were your biggest takeaways from the offense?
I love seeing James Neal play at tight end. That was a nice little wrinkle I felt like we added. Obviously, it's, hey, how do we get our best matchups? And obviously, James has gone in there and played some solid football for this year. Obviously, getting some people back has changed some of that up. But so being able to have 6 guys in there to be able to control the line of scrimmage is certainly something that I really did enjoy seeing, and I thought he did a pretty solid job overall.
If I was a defensive coordinator and I was trying to scout the Iowa State Cyclones, man, we're kind of all over the place. It's, you would like to be able to say, hey, if we shut down Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins, we're going to win the football game. I wouldn't think that would be accurate because we got other guys contributing, which is really fun to see. We can throw in Steve-O, essentially a blocking tight end who can also go out and catch passes too. We have a tight end group that, him and Burkle, I guess right now are the only 2 that have really been playing. But, you have 5 or 6 running backs. I mean, yesterday, I think Flora got some carries yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so much going on, and that can be successful when other teams are trying to scout you. You're like, oh my gosh, we have to cover really everyone. And Carson Brown, like we talked about earlier, playing some great football. He's an option out there, wide receiver. He's not just another just a guy that's standing out there. He can be a threat out there. So that is one thing why I think first half not great, right? But if you just give our credits to the defense for giving us some time to get going there a little bit on offense, but we just got so many different options, which is really fun to watch.
Yeah, I think that second half is definitely like a turning point for the offense. Rocco's ability to run brings another dynamic to the offense that I feel like we'll definitely be using in the next few weeks to open some other things up with, maybe they have to bring one more person into the box, and then it opens things up for Jalen and Jaden and all of our other receivers. And when you have tight ends that can, like you said, block and run routes and go out and catch passes, that changes things for defensive coordinators because they can't, you have to bring in guys that can cover them, but that can also fill gaps and try and stop the run against them as well. So I like when we go, 13 personnel, bringing those big guys in that can also go out there and catch the ball. And then Rocco just being a kind of another running back as well with his legs that brings a dynamic side to our offense that I'll be excited to see how we utilize that the next couple of games. But it'll just be how we use it in executing. None of that, anything that we put out there on the field is. Everybody's just got to execute. Football is one of those sports where all 11 guys have to do their job for a play to be successful. And, you really, as a player, you got to think, like, just don't be that one person that doesn't. So, execution is going to be big in the last two games of the regular season. So, got to go out there and execute.
Jirehl, I do have a question for you. About the running backs. Obviously, we've seen all of them kind of have their moment throughout the year. Do you feel like any of that is like, obviously you want to feed the hot hand, but do you feel like it's just, Abu led us in carries yesterday. And Jalen Jackson didn't get a
Carson's hurt.
Is that kind of what I was wondering, is if he's still probably banged up a little bit?
Yeah. I think Carson's still a little banged up a little bit. I think he was healthy, like going into the game. I feel like I don't know, so this isn't me saying that I know, but I feel like he might have gotten hurt a little bit towards the end of the game, and that's when you started seeing more just Abu, and then Flora got in there a little bit, and I don't know exactly what the running back situation is in there, but I've always been a big person on being able to throw anybody in there and still pick up 4 yards of carry. Like, I think that's as offensive linemen, you guys can appreciate that as well. Being able to, no matter who's running behind us, we're going to go out here and get at least 4 yards. So that's how I look at it. I feel like no matter who's in there, we should go out there and have 100 yards at least as a running back committee. But yeah, I don't know. There's a bunch of guys that can go out there and get the job done. That's all. That's what I know, is that there's guys that can go out there and put up some numbers and get us in the end zone.
I was gonna ask you the same thing, Jirehl. Like, I low key was confused on the running back.
Oh, bro, I was like, okay. There was one play we had. Well, it was the play that they moved around. It was like a diamond in the backfield. They had like 3 running backs in, and the running quarterback. I forget what his name is.
Mobley.
But it's like, okay, I really like at that point I was like, yeah, all these guys have carried the ball. I really don't know who's going to get the ball, because like if we would have ran that back in the day when it was just like me, Brees, and like Eli, like who do you think is getting the ball? Brees.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, no clue. I have no clue who's getting the ball. So, maybe they could use that to their advantage somehow. I don't know. At this point, I'd just say keep it simple. Just run that ball inside.
From a player's perspective, though, man, that's got to be hard. Like, you think about Jalen Jackson had 1 carry yesterday. He was the guy 5 weeks ago.
Action Jackson.
He snatched so many people's ankles early in the season.
Gosh, that's got to be so hard. Like, I mean, props to those guys if they can, or if they're keeping it together for the most part in that room. But man, splitting time at the end of the day, everyone wants to play. Like, I'm sure Jirehl, when you were behind Brees and all you did was the 3rd down pass blocks. You're selfishly they're like, I want to carry the ball 20 times a game, not. I
was hoping that we got first down and run a tempo play right away.
Right.
Let me get one.
Those are the mental battles that are hard throughout the course of a season, which I've been there, so it's not fun, but yeah, it was just interesting, I would say.
I think one cool thing that Iowa State fans should be looking forward to is how many guys we're playing right now. It's going to build so much depth, both offensively and defensively. The number of offensive linemen we have, the number of running backs, the number of receivers. I mean, seeing Mobley out there, seeing tight ends be in this game. I mean, that's just going to create so much competition because guys are like, hey, I know what it takes to play in a football game now. That's what's keeping them in, right? Like the freshman that's going out there and catching balls from Rocco in a live game in Jack Trace Stadium in week 10. Like, he is going to be locked in. He now knows what it is. So when he goes into an off season, he knows how he has to train. It's not like, hey, I've never played in a game before. I stood on the sideline. He's like, I've gotten game reps. I've seen what guys can do. So the depth that I think Iowa State's going to be building in years coming, especially on defense, same exact story, especially at that linebacker position, which is maybe, kind of a weakness right now. I hope that this turns out to be one of our strengths because we played so many guys.
Think about how many guys are going to want the Colin Newell treatment during spring ball this year. We're playing 60 guys probably this year.
Newell treatment, man.
If anyone wants to know what the
Colin Newell
treatment, I was say, what is the Newell treatment?
God.
Yeah, what's
everybody. Oh, dude. What do you mean? You know exactly what it is. No practice for you, buddy.
You're talking about my senior year when I was crippled and could barely walk?
Dude, I was crippled too. I never got the Colin Newell treatment. You were treated like gold.
Oh, come on.
Where's New at?
Where's New? Oh, he's not doing the last 2 periods. He's going to go in the training room. Oh, Newell gets a day off. He's in his spiders today while everyone else is in full pads.
You want to know something?
Who's that blueberry over there?
Remember who also never had a backup and had to play every single game, every single snap, every single game while everyone else had someone come in?
That is fair. Kansas in 2020, bro.
Yeah,
I remember
when
that.
I played the entire game.
I was a redshirt freshman. I got pulled before Newell. I think
even after we were up by
Me and
Whatever
Daryl
he had to say in.
me and Daryl were the first people to get pulled, and we're the two youngest guys.
I tore my shoulder up right before halftime, put a Sully on, came back out, and still played the rest of the game.
And we were up by like, I don't even know what we were up by.
Well, that's a good point in the program to give a shout out to our sponsors. InCYde Zone is presented by Wyffels Hybrids, where commitment and excellence and tailored corn hybrids come together. Wyffels Hybrids understands what Midwestern farmers need to succeed with products bred special. Excuse me, I need a drink of water over here. With products bred specifically for our region's fields and conditions, with a focus on quality and a deep dedication to supporting farmers at every stage, Wyffels delivers a hybrid advantage to help maximize yield potential. And as always, they're Cyclone supporting Cyclones, as I like to say. You can learn more about them at wyffels.com. It's WYFFELS.com. And of course, our program is also sponsored by the Ivy College of Business at Iowa State, where future business leaders are made. So if you're looking for a really good business program to get your degree, Iowa State is the place to go. So I also want to give a shout out to the Cyclone Fanatic Shop. We just added a bunch of new items, and like we said, we got senior game coming up here at the end of the month against Kansas State. So go secure all your clothes. Cyclones versus the world.
Get that merch.
Yeah, Cyclones versus the world has never been more real than right now, I feel like.
What's new?
Get your merch.
We got new quarter zips. We have basketball quarter zips and wrestling quarter zips. And as far as football stuff, we have new. Oh, yep. There we go.
Oh, the Barnes Farms one was cool. Yeah.
Yeah, we got some new NIL stuff for the team. So plenty of stuff. Plenty of cool stuff.
That's cool.
And jumper's still cold.
I'm gonna have to get one of those basketball shirts. Those are cool.
You should. I need to get the wrestling ones. But okay. Speaking of Newell being hurt, Will McLaughlin returned to the game after missing 9 games, and he notched 4 tackles. Talk about him coming back. I feel like even just having his presence clearly back on the bench really uplifted everyone. Talk about how you saw his performance impact not only the game, but I mean morale.
Yeah, Will McLaughlin was always like my little brother, at least the last 2 years at Iowa State. I don't know why we kind of lived right next to each other. I don't know, we just bonded really well. We hung out at the lake a lot. His family's got a lake house where I have a lake house. So we bonded really well, and to see him come back, man, that's awesome. He was talking about yesterday in the post game how he was at rock bottom. That's not a fun place to be, especially when you're considering retirement, is what he said. But to have him back, I mean, and I know the type of guy Will is around the locker room. He's a fiery guy. He's kind of like a firecracker around the locker room. He's always got energy. He's always, chatting with someone about something. So, I mean, to get him back on the field beyond the fact that he's played a lot of games and it's just a veteran type guy back on the field, commanding the defense, helping out. Because, defense is a lot of communication. Like, you have to be able to communicate with your other linebackers, your defensive linemen. Let's say like you're running like a linebacker end stunt, you got to be able to communicate that kind of thing. So communication and just communicating, with the secondary as well, is obviously the best part. But to get him back as a person on the field, I think is way more valuable than anything he could provide, in terms of scheme or talent. I mean, that guy is just easy to follow. He's easy to, get some hype off from. So, man, props to him. I mean, I can only imagine what he was going through this year. I've kind of been there, not that bad, but that's a tough situation. And for him to fight back, and he wanted to come back to, for this game specifically because of, Coach Vite and the relationship they had. So, man, props to him. So that's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jake said it. I'll really just speak on my relationship with Will. Will, I love Will. Will's a great guy. Like Jake said, like I live with Jake and we live right down the street from Will. But just couldn't have been happier to see him back on the field. I know injuries are really tough, and to have to go through 2 surgeries, I've only had to go through 1. So I couldn't even imagine how he was feeling, and especially when somebody says that they hit bottom. That's kind of hard to hear, especially because you really just see him smile all the time. You don't see what they go through in those dark times like that. So really happy to see him back on the field. It was huge for our team. I think his presence helped a lot. Just with those younger guys in the linebacker room, having his veteran presence out there, a guy who played so many snaps last year. He brings that presence, and like you said, just going up against Coach Veit, I think that was the little motivation that he needed to make sure he got back for this game. So I was happy to have him back, and wishing him the best of luck for the rest of the year.
I think we should hit on real quick, the support staff at Iowa State. Because I know when a player's in a position like that where they kind of hit, everyone gets close to rock bottom when they're playing college sports in some way, some capacity. And that's a huge part, of being like a head coach of the football team, is put a staff around you that, is going to be supportive in those times. Because I'm sure if you ask Campbell, he knows that hard times, actually, he does say that hard times are going to happen. It's about the people you surround yourself with. So, props to all the people that are behind the scenes a lot, supporting some of these guys through some of these things.
For sure. I think what it does for a locker room too, right? Like Will wasn't obviously in this alone. At times that being injured, it could feel like you're isolated a little bit because you're not out at practice, things like that. But like your dudes know what you're going through. Like when you're not out there with the practice, it's not like you're just taking the time off. Like they know that you're going through something,
right?
How draining, how physical. Like, you're seeing that person spend more time at the facility than someone who's playing just because they're in the training room so much. So I think that like the dudes know, like, hey, having him out there, knowing what he's been through, knowing he's going to fly around 1,000,000 miles an hour because it just means that much to him and what he's struggled with. I think it definitely does help the team morale, knowing that he's back out there with what he's been through.
Dude, the training room when you're hurt, you're right, dude. That's an extra hour to 2 hours a day in the training room. And like, that's awful. You'd be in there all day. I remember if you got hurt during fall camp, RIP.
Wow.
It's tough.
I can only imagine based on just everything Will shared in the post game. But like you guys said, it was really fun to see him return. And clearly the team needed something like that with how many injuries they're facing. Something I wanted to bring up with the defense in the post game, Rocco said that he fully attributed them being able to win the game with the way the defense was able to keep them in the game with their performance in the first half. Dom Orange didn't play. He didn't even travel with the team down to Kansas City. He was back. He made some big moves there towards the end of the first half. Talk about having him back and just what you saw from the defense. What really clicked for them this game that hasn't necessarily clicked last week or the week prior?
I think Dom brings a physicality to our defense that you definitely notice isn't there when he's missing. He made those consecutive plays I think it was at the end of the first half. Those consecutive plays to you really just stop them from going down and scoring at the end of the second quarter, where it's like if Dom isn't there, you don't know if those plays are being made. Like he's just such a force to be reckoned with on the inside. And his presence is definitely missed when he's not there, and it's definitely felt when he is.
I thought Jack Sadowski also played one of his better games of his career. I thought he came in and made some nice tackles for losses, which was nice to see at that linebacker position. But I think Coach Haycock is so special in what he does. Obviously, we know how great he is, but he made that team so far one-dimensional that it was like, yeah, their quarterback really wasn't a rushing quarterback, and he rushed the ball, and that's maybe slightly concerning seeing the quarterback rush that much. But, like, he literally forced them to be like, hey, this isn't the strength of your team, but it's going to be the only thing that you can do. So it chokes them out. It makes them off their game. They're having to, kind of like we said, adapt and be aggressive. Well, they're not able to do that because they had no passing game. So I think that's major credit to the defensive staff. Obviously, not just Cleve Chaycock, but all that team saying, "Hey, we're taking away a whole part of your game plan. You gotta beat us with one thing: quarterback run." And your quarterback has been known as a true runner all season. So good luck.
Yeah, it's important, when you're talking defense, you want to try to make a team as one-dimensional as possible. I mean, at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to stop every single play, but, to force them into an offense probably they weren't very comfortable with, that's how you win games. Like, when you kind of control the tempo and what the offense can call, man, that's how you win the games. And, yeah, I think about Dom, you think of guys like that, when a defensive lineman is one dude, but he feels like you have to block two dudes at one time, that's a game changer. I remember we had guys that we had to go against, and you just feel like you one-on-one, you're not going to win. Like, that guy's going to take you every day. You got to put two guys on him all the time. So when you have guys like that, it can really open up a defensive playbook. You're going to be like, I'm not running at that guy. Going to run the other way. And then you can force it to your linebackers. So it's huge to have him back.
So as it was said earlier, Iowa State held Cincinnati to just 66 passing yards. When you guys look at the secondary, how did you feel about their performance? What are you seeing that they're kind of changing up to find success?
Malik Verdon is back.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely banged up in the secondary. I think all of our DBs are hurt in some way or form. But they definitely played a lot better this week. Kind of like Noel and Jake were saying, like when you can make them one-dimensional, that's going to help. It's going to help everything really just play out the way that we want it to.
They're playing really well, top to bottom. Bo's an animal. Having Malik back is awesome. I want to talk, though, one thing about Mr. Darian Porter. You talk about a guy who I don't think I've seen a more successful 6-year COVID year taker than Darian Porter, and the amount of growth he has made. He only played special teams for 4 or 5 years, and now he's going to the Reese's Senior Bowl. Like, that's a big time game. That's how you get to the next level. And for him to take advantage of this last year, really cool to see. So hats off to him. I hope he can finish this year out good and have the best success in the Senior Bowl.
So something that happened towards, I don't even know when it happened. It might have been towards kind of the end of the game. J.R. Singleton was taken out of the game. He came back to the bench in street clothes. Is that obviously an injury in general is concerning, and it's something we constantly talk about. But how concerning is this? We don't know what the extent of the injury. Coach didn't have anything to say. He said we'd maybe know later in the week. But with all the injuries that are impacting this team, like, how big is it going to be if J.R. Singleton's out?
I feel like the motto has been like next man up this year. Like, it's a huge loss. It's an incredibly huge loss. This team is so unique in how they've been able to battle, though, because this isn't like the first injury we've seen this season. So I think that they'll step up. There'll be someone that comes in and plays. We've had that time in and time out. But yeah, having a guy like JR who's just a great locker room guy, people look up to. He cares about that next level of dudes. There's obviously a reason he's wearing the number he is, in honor of Coach Bray, because of the dude he is. So he's well respected, and I think it's going to be a huge loss for us. But he's going to be the type of guy that's going to reach back if he's out for an extended period of time or anything like that. He's going to be the guy that's making sure that the next man in line is just as prepared as he would have been going into that game.
Man, I'm right with you, Newell. I mean, this team just keeps, proving me wrong. Every injury we've had this year is you kind of sit there like, oh, that's probably not good. Losing Kale Bacon game 1, that's probably not good. They keep on the next man up, keep stepping up. and you don't even realize it. Like, think about the defense we have right now with 100% health. Woof, woof. That's a good team, good defense. So you just never know. We don't have, think about our offense. We don't have Bramer right now. He's you could say our best receiving tight end weapon that we have. So you just never know. So I would say, yeah, it's not great losing someone, but at the same time, like, I'm not really too worried about it, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with Jake. I mean, this team's bounced back from how many injuries this year? It's nothing new. I feel like they're kind of calloused for this now.
It's a good word.
It's obviously something that you don't want to happen, especially one of our interior guys. But especially a captain and like JR, someone who's, like Newell said, huge locker room guy. Everybody loves him. It's obvious. Yeah, it's not what you want to happen, but like I said, this team's callous for it. Like Newell said, he'll have the next guy just as ready as he was. That's the kind of leader he is. That's the kind of person he is. He's going to be in the meeting rooms probably more now than he would be if he was playing, just getting the other guys ready. That's the selfless guy he is. And I think the team will be just fine, though. They're used to it. They'll bounce back. They'll find ways. Coach Haycock will find ways to, put the next guy in a great position to win.
Agreed.
So I'll ask you this last question. Obviously, big win. That second half was great. It was fantastic to see them play the way they did. This team has momentum, 2 big games. Now they're going on the road. What do you guys think they need to do to, continue to build on this? How do you keep them motivated? Leah Nelson, who's been doing our halftime and our post game, she's doing a great job. She asked Jeff Woody this question and I loved it. So I wanted to ask it to you guys, since you are also all former players. But in this situation, what does Matt Campbell need to say to his guys to keep them motivated? Or even just you guys as individuals, what do you need to hear to go into next week against Utah and take care of business?
I think something that's super unique about Coach Campbell's philosophy is how much player leadership there is. You hear him talk about that, but like, he has committees that he will meet with and kind of hear like, hey, what's going on in the locker room? What do we need to do? How do we continue to push this team forward? So there's so much that comes from the locker room, just from leadership and the players. So, I don't think Coach Campbell has a ton that he has to say. We got dudes out there that are warriors, both Reeler, you got Jalen Noel, you got all these guys who are just great people, great players, and care so much that they've invested everything into this. Like, there's no, like, it's keep going, keep winning, because we worked our ass off way too hard to say, we're done now. So, I don't think that there's really much that Coach Campbell has to say. I think he keeps steering the ship and making sure that people get what they need, make sure they get healthy, make sure they get that. But I think what's so great about Coach Campbell's program is how much he puts into those seniors to say, hey, this is your program. You guys make sure that it goes in the right direction.
100%. No, that's a great point. I remember, Thursdays after our run-throughs or whatever they are on Thursdays, we'd have a leadership huddle out on the field. No coaches, no nothing. It's kind of like the before the game hype, and the captains go around and say something about the game. But in my honest opinion, after you get through game 10, there shouldn't be a whole lot of motivation that you need. Either you're really bad and you're looking forward to the season being done, or like serious. Like, I remember in 2020,
by then
we were to the point like, all right, we stink. Let's get the heck done with this year, and But and then there's the other side. You got stuff to play for, and we're still in it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
We need a KU win next weekend as well, and we're back in the hunt. So there's still a lot to play for. Like, I always thought the end of the year was exciting because, like, regardless of where you are, like the ending's coming, and like you can see the end of the tunnel here. So good or bad, but luckily we're in the good right now. So we got everything to play for still, fortunately.
Yeah, I always felt like once it got towards the end of the year, obviously depending on record wise and what you're fighting for as a player, considering I didn't get to live out my senior year. I don't know how it felt like as a senior playing your last year. I didn't know that my last game was going to be my last game when it was. I think it was always just play for the seniors, like, you know, those guys that won't get to play anymore.
100%.
You know, and I feel like Coach Campbell kind of like always says it, like, play for the seniors, the guys who have, you know, built the road that, you know, we're going to travel on as a team the next few years. Just making sure that those guys go off with the best, you know, with a win. Like I took it really like personally after we lost the Cheez-It Bowl, and like we sent like New and Brock and Charlie and everybody off with a loss, and I was like, oh dang, these guys are really the people who kind of like changed this program, and they kind of left with a loss like that. So, you know, as a younger player, as anybody that's not a senior, it was definitely just do it for the seniors, the guys that have, you know, paved the way.
It's a good point, Jirehl, because, you know, at the end of the day, I don't know if you guys still feel this way. Every Saturday comes around and I feel like I'm ready to go play another game, but you can't. So that's what that's what you want to play for, is play for those guys that it is their last year. So,
Well, Iowa State's going to hit the road. They're going to play against Utah. 6 p.m. Central Time is kick here in Iowa. Unfortunately for me, same time as Cyhawk Wrestling, so I won't be able to watch the football game until the rewatch. But that's all right.
Cyhawks on a Saturday this year for wrestling.
Yep, 6 p.m.
Oh wow!
Unfortunately, but
Go Clones.
Yep.
Go Clones.
So, yes, Iowa State's officially back in the AP poll today, also, number 22. So, like Remy said, there's a lot to play for. I'm not even going to go through the scenarios because they're really all over the place, but there's still a lot to play for. So, we'll be back next Sunday to break down that game, and let's see where Iowa State stands.
Do you guys remember when we first started this podcast week 1 and it was still light out when we started recording? And now it's like
black.
I was getting ready to come do this today, and it's dark out. But wintertime.
That's called daylight savings.
I know. Oh well. Let's get it. Apparently, the night time's good for Cyclones lately. So
yeah, 5-0, 5-0.
When the sun, that should be our team song. When the sun goes down, the Kenny Chase style will be grooving. Cyclone Nation will be grooving, and the night games. Happy Sunday, y'all.
Thanks for
have a good week,
guys.
Have a great week.